Greetings, y'all. I am here to share with you some info about scatter plots, association, and construction. So association, we're talking about the shape of the scatter plot, whether it's positive, negative, or no association, and whether it's linear or nonlinear. And then construction, we're actually going to make some scatter plots, provided that I can do so in this 15-minute video. So for starters, let's address scatter plots and association. These are notes. They go in your notebook. They should be glued in. And I'm Miss Starling. It's October 19th, 2021. And this is for all my 8th grade periods. So that's 2, 5, and 7. All right, let me zoom out and autofocus just a little bit. Okay, so scatter plots, still not autofocused. Scatter plots are graphs that use points to display numerical data. And we use 2 variables, so that's bivariate data. Scatter plots can help determine if one variable has an effect on the other, or if there are overall trends, patterns, or associations between the variables. So, looking at this example, it says Zara surveyed shoppers at a mall to see how many items they'd purchased and the amount of money they'd spent at the mall. She used the data to create the scatter plot shown. How many shoppers did Zara survey? And does the number of items purchased seem to have an effect on the amount of money a shopper spent? Explain. So the number of shoppers that she surveyed are the dots there. So I'm going to count all the dots. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16 shoppers. And does the amount of money that they spent seem to have an effect, or sorry, does the number of items that they bought have an effect on the amount of money that they spent? For the most part-ish, yes. The more you buy, the more things that you buy, the more money that you're spending. However, I can also look here and see that 3 things were bought and they spent $140. Whereas over here, 8 things were bought and less than $140 was spent. So this is about $125. So it really depends on how much the stuff is. But overall, I can see that, I'm going to say mostly yes. The more things you buy, or things that are bought, were bought, show that more money is spent. Boom. The more things you buy, the more money you spend. So let's look at these here. Okay, so use the table below to define the 3 possible types of association seen in scatter plots. The first one says positive association. As one variable increases, the other variable also increases. They're doing the same things and moving in the same direction. The variables change in the same direction. As one variable increases for negative association, the other variable decreases. The variables change in opposite or opposing directions. And then no association means that the change in one variable has absolutely no effect on the other. Okay? So what that means is these are kind of going upward, boom, and these are kind of going downward. Boom. And over here, I can't really draw a straight line to kind of figure out which direction they're going because they're just all over the place. So at the bottom, it says, describe the type of association you'd expect to see between the following variables and explain. 1, the number of shoes a person owns and the number of states they visited. Well, if shoes had to do with the number of states you visited, then these would have an association, but these are not related at all. No association. Shoes don't affect visits to states. Weirdly as that sounds. All right, number 2, the size in ounces of a steak and the cost of a steak. Well, if you're a steak eater, you would know that the more steak you get, the more you got to pay. So yes, this has a positive association. More steak means more money. So you know the Yelp dollar signs, if there's a $1 sign, then it's kind of affordable. If there's 2, then it gets a little more pricey. And if there's 3 or 4, it's kind of expensive. We'll add $3 signs here, okay? Number 3, it says the number of days since watering a plant and the moisture level of the soil. This is a negative association. As the days increase, from watering your plant, the moisture goes down. Okay? That plant gets dry. Okay? As the number of days increase, the number of days without watering increase, the moisture goes down. All right. We can also describe the strength of association seen on a scatter plot and whether the association is linear or nonlinear. So if data points are close together, the association is strong. Okay? Kind of like saying your association with your friends. If y'all are close, the association is strong. If you're not close with other students, then you're going to be widely spread out and your association is weak. Okay? No negative connotation there. Linear versus nonlinear. If a straight line, because in the word linear is the root line, if a straight line can be drawn to show the overall trend of a scatter plot, good Lord, the association can be described as linear. I can draw a straightish line here, and the dots will kind of stay around it and keep going in that same pattern. Here, I cannot draw a straight line going up and down from bottom left to bottom right, or bottom left to top right, or top left to bottom right. There's no association there. Non-linear. And this is linear. All right. So we're using scatter plots A through D to answer questions 4 through 7 below. So let's look at these. Let's talk about the strength of the association, and let's talk about whether it's linear or not. So these dots are fairly close together, so I'm going to call this strong. But I'm going to draw a straight line. I don't really see a straight line, so this is nonlinear. Okay, here I'm going to draw a straight line. This tends to be linear. And it's got a little bit of a spread out pattern here. So we'll call this a weak association. And then letter C. I got a straight line that can go from the top left to the bottom right. This is linear and also weak. And it's a negative linear. And this one's positive, by the way. And then over here, I can't really draw a straight line going from bottom left to top right or top left to bottom right. So this is nonlinear, and these are fairly spread out as well. And this is a weak association. Okay. So now that I have described them myself, I can go answer my questions a lot easier. So for number 4, it says, which scatter plot or plots show linear association? linear and linear, so that's B and C. Which scatter plots show nonlinear associations? That would be A and D. 6. Which scatter plot shows the weakest association? That looks like C, because these are kind of close together. So we'll say scatter plot C. And then which scatter plot shows the strongest association? We'll say A, because all of these are fairly spread out. So A is the winner here. All right. So then toward the bottom, it says in 8 through 10, draw a line from each scatter plot to the best description of its association, and then to the variables it would most likely represent. Not all choices will be used. So I'm going to label these as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. And then I'm going to write the letters that go with them over here. That way I'm not drawing a whole bunch of lines and making it a little messy. I'll try and keep my paper as neat as possible. All right, so this doesn't really have an association, so I'm going to talk about that before I look at my answers. So nonlinear. And this tends to go up. So this tends to be a positive and linear. Positive and linear. And this tends to go downward. So this is negative and linear. All right, so let's see the descriptions here that match. So nonlinear, let's see, no association right here, E. Positive linear, that's A. Negative and linear, negative and nonlinear, right here, C. Okay, then I need to read the variables over here. The temperature outside and the total gallons of gas sold at a gas station. Those really don't have an effect on one another because regardless of how hot or cold it is outside, we are still going to need to get gas, okay? So that would be this one right here, E and F, for the nonlinear and this totally not related variables. Letter G, the altitude of a hiker and the total oxygen level in the air. As you go up and you're hiking or climbing a mountain, the number or the amount of oxygen in the air decreases, but the altitude is increasing for that hiker. So these have a negative association because as one is going up, the other is going down. So I'm going to put C and G down here. And then this last one has to go here with A, the size of a home and the cost of the monthly utilities for the home. If you have a big house, then more than likely you've got a high utilities bill. So that's A and H. So those go together, and those go together. All right, let's see if I can squeeze in a little bit. Oh, nope, we've got more notes, not homework. All right, so scatter plots and association. Hold, please. All right, so for scatter plots and association, I know this says homework up top, but this is just more notes. I want us to get more familiar with the scatter plots, and then I'll go over the homework later. So I'm going to have to zoom in to make this a little more clear. It says in 1 through 3, list whether you predict to see positive, negative, or no association between two variables and explain your choice. So number 1, it says the number of hours spent playing a video game and the highest level of the video game reached. This would be a positive association, because the more you play, the better you get at it, right? More play leads to higher levels. Boom. Number 2, it says the number of letters in a person's name and the last digit of their phone number. No association. Names have nothing to do with phone numbers. Phone numbers.